Nina, welcome back to Mea Culpa. Great to see you, my friend. So much going on, so much to talk about. I want to jump right into it. Nina, literally, every time we think that the Epstein story has given up all of its secrets, something new pops up. What do the latest revelations tell us about the powerful people who protected him? And why are they still terrified of the truth coming out?
Well, I mean, start with the first part of your question. In the, the document dump from the House Oversight Committee that's really from the Epstein estate, because we haven't started to get those materials from the DOJ yet, and we may not for a long time, depending on how much they hold us to the restriction on open investigations. There are numerous emails and texts showing just how the original Wexner money to Epstein enabled him to begin this crazy climb into the elite system of our country and really global. So he gets this money from Les Wexner in 91. Wexner gives him full power of attorney over his empire. And shortly thereafter, Ghislaine Maxwell shows up in his life. He gets his first private jet. He joins the Council on Foreign Relations. And from there, he sort of enters this new realm where he's getting invited to tour the CIA. He's literally invited into the U.S. Treasury. He's pals with these guys from MIT. He's going around the world. He's meeting the sheikhs. He's and so it's
buddying up with Prince Andrew.
And of course, yes, with Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell's purpose in his life, I think, was to enter him into this social realm. He was getting into the sort of foreign policy business world and had been doing that through Bear Stearns and through his other connections. But yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell connected him with, as we know, with Andrew. And that just, it's just massively mystifying as to how he was able to get this kind of access. But once you understand, like, it started with the money, and I think it's the money. Like, if you're suddenly able to have access to billions, you're in a different realm, and doors start to open. But there are lots of people who have a lot of money who don't do what he was doing. So it's a real credit to the man's ingenuity, sociopathy, whatever you want to call it.
So what are they terrified about? About the truth coming out, that their lives are going to be finally exposed, that these predators will be outed for who and what they are? And the real question I think that we have to ask, because I've been very clear, I don't see Trump as the partaker. And again, I'm only speaking based upon my knowledge, my relationship with him from 2006 to 2018. All right?
Yeah.
I've never seen him. Yeah, he says stupid shit. Don't get me wrong. Right? Yeah. Like the comments that he made with Howard Stern, the comments he talks about Ivanka, some of the things that he says, they're stupid. Most of them are actually made up. And he does it for effect. Like going backstage and so on, and all the girls are running around naked. And that's funny because I was with him there. I went backstage with him, not because we went to spy on the girls, because that's where the office was when we were choosing who the top 25 contestants were going to be, which everybody knew that was his job, that he was allowed. And we would go meet Paula Shugart, who was the president of Miss Universe. We'd go meet her back. And I was permitted to go back there because I was one of 3 of the board members of Miss Universe. There were no naked girls there. I saw girls in their bathrobes, right, getting their hair done, but I didn't see a single naked person in the place. And I would turn around and say I did, and I would think it was inappropriate, but they were in a whole different area. So when he had that experience, I don't know. Was he saying it for Howard Stern effect? We all know he's a showman above all.
Right. So I'm glad to hear you say that, Michael, because I think a lot of people are waiting for the the videotape that shows him with 13-year-old, or the photographs of him with girls. And that, a week ago, I did a radio interview with Talk Radio in London in the UK. And the first question out of the woman's mouth was, the recent document dumps. What do they show? Is this the smoking gun? And I said, the smoking gun, I mean, like, what do you mean by the smoking gun? We already know that he was pals with Epstein, that they were in business, they had business dealings together, that Epstein was using Mar-a-Lago to get, at least to get Virginia Giuffre, and he had interactions with people there, that Palm Beach, that all of these men that they interacted with, many of them were engaged in this behavior. We already know that Trump has been accused of predatory behavior by at least 30, sexual harassment, not what you're talking about here. We already know that there are these women who have accused him before even the 2016 election, that he's handsy, that he has these, the Jean Carroll thing, let's say. But there is so much information out there already about what this is that, smoking gun is already there. The smoking gun is that he was friends with Epstein. He was interacting with him in some way. And there's something that he doesn't want people to know about. And it may be just that there are all these other men who are friends of his who are in there. I don't know. But the client list that people were waiting for, that these QAnons have been looking for, right? The client list is already out there. It's 1,500 names in the black book that Alfredo Rodriguez circled 50 of them and gave it to Brad Edwards, the lawyer for the victims, early on, and said, these are the guys who know this is the Holy Grail. And Trump is one of the circled. Why is he circled? Well, who knows? He had these friends. There's something in there that he doesn't want people to see. And I think that maybe it has to do with Melania. Maybe it has to do with Melania having known Epstein. I mean, we're getting into touchy territory here when we talk about her, but in my book about the Trump women and in Substacks that I've written, I'm very careful about not saying that she is a trafficked woman. However, she was a member of this community of Eastern European women who came over here in the 90s, right? When there was basically a flotilla post-Soviet Union. All of these beauties were coming over. They realized, this is a way to make money. I can meet rich men. And they were meeting up with these exploitative operations who would bring them over. And what happened was, and Paolo Zampoli was very honest, Paolo Zampoli, who supposedly was one of Melania's agents, very honest about what's happening. There were so many beautiful women from these Eastern European countries and Siberia and so on, and Slovenia. There were so many of them that they all couldn't be these supermodel. They all couldn't be the Victoria's Secret angel. So a lot of them ended up sort of in this second tier where, as Paolo Zampoli told me, the words he used was they were party models. And as you know, if you've been around New York long enough, there's certain parties that you go to where they're just draped with these gorgeous women. They're these tall sylphs walking around with these beautiful outfits on, and they add a kind of a flavor to the party, right? And so that's what they were, that he said that, like, some of these women we would send them to these parties. And I think, you look at Michael Gross's book about the modeling industry, or, maybe listen to Michael Wolff a little bit. These women were part of a community that actually, many of them were exploited. And we know that Epstein was an exploiter. He was trafficking them. The new emails that I wrote about last week or 2 weeks ago talk about the French Connection, where you see him just moving these women in and out of Siberia, out of Warsaw, out of Kiev, right. All these Eastern European countries, coming through Paris and then to points unknown, right? So we know that he was very enmeshed in the Eastern European women community. And it's not unreasonable to think that Melania might have known him through these other women. I'm not saying that she was a member of the trafficked community at all, but I think that it's something that...
Well, Michael Wolff makes that statement, by the way. Michael Wolff turns around and says that, he was told by Jeffrey Epstein,
yes,
that he and Melania had sexual relations before,
and that's why they're going to court.
Jeffrey introduced Donald to Melania.
That's right. And so there may be something in there that they don't want to have come out. That's one option, one possibility.
By the way, even assuming, number one, that that's true, does it change the fact that she's the first lady of the United States? I think the answer is no. Is it something that may be upsetting to her? You think any more upsetting than the story of Stormy Daniels or Karen McDougal? You think that, or, Trump talking about how he can grab women by the pussy simply because he's a celebrity and give me my Tic Tacs, so she's been through her thing. And by the way, even assuming that it's in that file, that shouldn't be released anyway. That has no probative value to holding the men accountable.
That's right.
Child trafficked and sexually exploited and raped these young women.
That's right.
There's no probative value to it to denigrate Melania for any reason at all.
Right. So I think the other thing that these emails are showing, and you see them in a lot of places now, is that just the relationship that Epstein had with these powerful figures in terms of influencing things like the movement of tech information, right? He was very enmeshed at MIT, and there were these Russians who were also operating there. And so, what was he doing with this tech material? There are tons of emails between him and Ehud Barak where they were trying to sell this surveillance operation that surveillance company that Ehud Barak was involved in creating after he'd been prime minister. And you see a lot of these sort of influence operations that he's involved in. And working with these international organizations like the Russians, like the Israelis. So, and also, you have the bankers. And I think there's just a lot of influential, important people who are going to be and have already been revealed, right? Jess Staley, Larry Summers just took the fall because he's using, ridiculously, there are these emails where he's literally taking advice or trying to solicit advice from Epstein on how he could better seduce his mentee, the young Chinese economist. You see that a lot. Like a lot of these guys kind of thought, he's a cool operator and he's going to help me figure out how to get this hot babe. And so there's a lot of interaction in that sort of realm that's just embarrassing to people. And I think they don't.
How about talk to me, please, for a moment about a name that popped up on an email that involves me in this Epstein drama saga bullshit.
I'm not fully
Representative Stacey Plaskett. It turns out that during my House oversight hearing, when I was live speaking,
they were texting live with each other.
Exactly. What's the relationship there? How come nobody's asking that question? Why is she not censured? Why is she not asked to resign? Why is she not something? I mean, okay, great. Fuck Larry Summers. I don't give two shits about him or any of these other predators other than I want to see them held accountable so that these young girls, these women now can see justice being done. Right? That expose them all. But why should she get a pass?
Well, see,
why is she getting a pass?
I don't know, because the Republicans have power to do something about that, right? And
she's a Democrat.
I know, that's what I mean. But the Republicans, she's on a committee. The Republicans control the committee. They could censure her. The Republicans control the House. They can censure her. They haven't done so. I don't know why they haven't.
How about just put her in front of the committee to ask her questions about her relationship? Are you going to really tell me on that small island of Little St. James, where she is the representative, that you didn't notice that there's like a dozen airplanes landing at your tiny little airport, that you have dozens and dozens of little kids running around, these little hotties, as they would describing them, that you have all these old men and young kids, and nobody thought to say anything? Don't tell me everybody to this was blind. And I don't think she was blind either.
We know they weren't blind in the USVI. We know that there were people at that airport who were watching it go on and doing nothing. That's been reported on. I do think that, the U.S. Virgin Islands prosecution of this case, that's where J.P. Morgan was fined or required to pay in a settlement $260 million to the victims. I think that USVI prosecutor did a pretty good job with those cases. I mean, they did bring them. They did get money out of the bank, and up against a lot of resistance. I mean, I think that the U.S. Virgin Islands actually fired that prosecutor at some point, and she was replaced. But they managed to get this money out of the bank. And, the banks are, I mean, that's another piece of the equation that's coming out here. You see these emails where the banks, they were discussing like I think this is in Bloomberg, and Jason Leopold's doing amazing work with his FOIAs. He's an investigative reporter for Bloomberg, where he's reported that you can see in the deliberations of the bankers where there's somebody saying, but wait a minute, we see him taking money. Like there's a literal receipt for like a 14-year-old. We have a problem with this. And the bank's like, well, but he's one of our biggest clients or whatever. And they kept going. And so I think that, back to your original question, Michael, I think, yes, this is about these girls being trafficked, girls and women. Yes, it's about the sex, but there's a bigger thing that was going on here. And that's why I opened with him, with the money that he got from Wexner and then his move into these influential positions. There's a lot more was going on here, and it was about money. And, Julie K. Brown has said this too, like follow the money. Yes, there was a big trafficking operation here. Yes, they were moving women around. Yes, he was involved with Jean-Luc Brunel and they were doing dirty things and exploiting women and girls. But there's something else going on here. And that is, I think, what they're concerned about, that there are these people with a lot of money, a lot of influence, and it crosses parties. He was palling up with Clinton. Let's say you put Clinton on your airplane, or you put Ehud Barak on your plane. You have a private plane, right? And you're flying around. You have the former president of the United States on your airplane. You can land your plane in places that other people can't land your planes. I mean, this guy was able to, I think there's one episode where he's got Clinton on his plane, and they literally landed at like a U.S. Military airport in Japan. And, you can't do that if you don't, you normally even very, very rich people can't do that. So he had access at these incredibly high levels. And again, if you look at the emails, let's say the emails between him and Ehud Barak, because those have been revealed, they're hacked. But if you start looking at those, you can see that there was a lot of discussion about, political influence, how to get the New York Times to publish a certain op-ed that they wanted to write about maybe, Obama should be getting involved with bombing Iran or stopping Iran from getting nuclear weapons and the Syrian war and influence, so there's a lot of like other stuff that was going on. It's not just about these women, it's about this bigger thing. And that is, I think, why. And Alex Acosta, there's the quote from Alex Acosta, who was the Palm Beach prosecutor who cut him the famous sweetheart deal, right? Where he said, I was told by intelligence to leave it alone, or I was told that he was involved in intelligence to leave it alone. And was he intelligence? I don't know. I mean, there's this sort of weird world. I mean, you've been more inside than I have, obviously, but there's this like weird layer between actual people who are working for the state or the government and, the private sector. There's this place in between where there are people who not officially on the rolls as like a member of the KGB or working, but they are sort of helping. They're doing things, and they're doing things in this sort of dark.
Yeah, they're agents. Think about Whitey Bulger, the same exact scenario. He was
he
was a government informant. He was able to kill people. He was able to move drugs, and do it in plain sight. And so I never had a problem, of course, until they ultimately said enough is enough, and then they killed him in prison.
I have a question for you, Michael, because I think you're in better position to answer this. Speaking of this idea of like informants and agents, a lot of people like to say that Trump is an agent for Russia, is an agent for Russia. And I have an opinion on that, but I want to ask you yours. I will happily tell you what mine is, but I want to know,
let me be crystal clear to say, in the decade and a half that I was by this guy's side, There is no Russia connection. It's wrong. It's bullshit. Now, if you told me, do I think that Trump may have been an agent for the FBI? Absolutely. Right? I mean, how he managed to, escape things that he had done early on in his career. Maybe he got himself into some trouble with the mob. I don't know. I certainly wasn't around during that time. I was in high school. But, one thing I can tell you, if in fact he had contacts into the KGB, into Putin, into Russia, there would already be a Trump Tower Moscow. There would already have been hundreds of other things that took place. All of this nonsense. Like Eric Trump once made a stupid comment. Oh, yeah, we have a lot of Russians and so on. No, you don't. You have Russian Americans that friends of mine who own apartments, in various different buildings. That doesn't make you connected to Russia. So he has no Russia connection there with that. But, many others are saying that he had contacts and he was himself an informant with the FBI, which is how the whole big fight and the entire downfall of Jeffrey Epstein first came about, when Trump contacted probably as John Barron, anonymously, and so on. But I did want to jump into a different topic for a second. I want to jump into Steve Bannon, because this devil of darkness keeps popping up, stirring chaos like it's a political storm cloud. What's it about him that makes him indispensable to this authoritarian administration or this wing of American politics? Because I got a chance to spend time with Steve Bannon, and I'm going to be crystal clear on this one. Personally, I think he's a fucking jerk off. All right. I think he dresses like a jerk off with 20 jackets, 14 shirts, the whole bit. And nothing that he says is earth shattering. Like, there's no political brilliance behind him. So what is it about him that makes him indispensable?
Well, as a member of the media, who I consume and transfer this kind of, what he's a great social media. He's a media operator. He's a media operator. If you remember when Trump first got elected, all the journalists, especially the men and liberal journalists, were just, making this pilgrimage down to Washington to have, to drink scotch with him and listen to him talk about the revolution that he was engaged in, and how, he was a Leninist and he was going to, they're going to smash the administrative state, right? And people were so enamored of the way that he was talking about this. That's part of it.
Ask any small business owner and they'll tell you finances get messy quick. A bank account here, QuickBooks there, tax and invoicing apps stacked on top. And you know what? Before long, you're buried in expensive tools, behind on books, and unsure where your business really stands. And that's why there's Found. Found eliminates the clutter by giving you one platform that handles it all: banking, bookkeeping, invoices, and taxes. No more paying for multiple subscriptions and dealing with clunky, outdated apps. Found identified the tasks that create the most hassle for small businesses. Things like categorizing expenses, preparing for taxes, managing invoices, budgeting, and they built an app that does it all directly from your business checking account. Found makes it easy to regain control of your business finances so you can get back to doing what you love. There's so much stress around juggling multiple apps, chasing receipts, or dreading tax season. Now, imagine what it's like to have everything: banking, bookkeeping, invoicing, and taxes handled in one place. And that's why I love Found, because they make it easy. Found automatically tracks expenses, which means that I no longer have to carve out time every week. Time I could have spent on something much more important, to go through my purchases and to make sure everything is accounted for. If I could go back to when I was starting my business, Found would have been a lifesaver. So take control of your business today. Open a Found account for free at found.com. That's Found, found.com. Found is a financial technology company, not a bank. Banking services are provided by Lead Bank, member FDIC. So join the hundreds of thousands who've already streamlined their finances with Found. Go now. Last minute holiday shopping? Well, it's basically a punishment for people who didn't do anything wrong. I mean, you're running out of ideas. The stores look like crime scenes, and don't even get me started on parking. So let me save you and your sanity, because Aura Frames is hands down the best last minute gift that still feels thoughtful and personal. Now, look, I struggle every year with what to get family. I want something meaningful, something that says, I didn't panic, buy this at 2 a.m. And that's why Aura Frames has become my go-to. Let me tell you what it is about it I love. Aura lets you share photos or videos from any device, and they instantly appear on the frame, whether the frame is in your home, your office, or your mother's place 3 states away. I mean, it's like magic, except it actually works. And the picture quality, true color. It automatically adjusts to the room. And at night, when you turn the lights off, yes, there is, it turns off too. I mean, that's already more considerate than most people I know. And setting it up, I'm not joking, 2 minutes, seriously. You just download the Aura app and you connect to Wi-Fi. Preload photos before it ships, add a message, then keep sharing photos all year long, even if the frame is halfway around the world. Plus, every frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag. 0 wrapping disasters required. I mean, you can't wrap togetherness, but you know what you can do? You can frame it. And so for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named legitimately #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code Cohen at checkout. That's Aura, A-U-R-A, frames.com, promo code Cohen. I mean, this deal is exclusive to listeners, and the frames, they sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays, and support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply, but go now.
I've interviewed him, and I think he is a good person to talk to for reporters, because he knows how to give great quotes. He's a good media operator. So I think that's part of it. But also, you know, we did write about the Bannon Epstein emails. We looked in depth at them, and you can see, you know, contrary to his claims for like however long he was pumping the QAnon theory about the deep state and the elites, he was right in there with Epstein. He loved Epstein. After Epstein came home from Fashion Week and told him how his testicles had run dry, he said, "I'm going to put a poster of you up in my apartment, buddy." Like he just thought he was great. And you know, he also was one of these guys taking like advice from him on advice to the lovelorn, right? Epstein's giving him like, you should bring your girlfriend to my island anytime. You know, you can come to my island. But also, he was introducing him to sheikhs. He was introducing him to European council leaders. He was letting him use his apartment in Paris. He was flying him around. They joked about how he was Bannon's like the most most expensive or least expensive travel agent in the world. He was setting him up, on short notice, I can get the jet, meet him at Teterboro, we'll pick you up in DC. We'll have you at lunch. You'll have lunch in Paris, and then you'll go to Dubai and meet with the sheikh. Okay. So he was using him as Bannon was using him as an operator, and trying to get himself into this international global right-wing operation. But in addition, Bannon is a failed Hollywood character, right? Remember that he wanted to be a director. He made a ton of money with that sitcom. He did.
Seinfeld.
But he was not, he wanted to be an auteur. I mean, the first time I ever laid eyes on him was at a CPAC, before Trump appeared on the horizon, probably during the Obama years. And it was in this like dingy little room in the basement of the Marriott. And he was hosting a little seminar on, conservative Hollywood. And I went in there, and he was, as you said, he was wearing his, like the uniform, the preppy, like layered shirts. And he had this grungy hair looking, and he was sitting there at this table with the other guy. And I still remember him. He was so bitter and angry about how Hollywood was treating him, and how they wouldn't listen to his brilliant ideas. And, he did end up doing, I think, a documentary on Reagan and some other things, but he's failed at Hollywood. And so I think there's a chip on the shoulder. Like as Carville said, Hollywood, or sorry, what is it? Washington is Hollywood for ugly people. And I think there's some of that going on here. I mean, he's a failed auteur. And so then he gets into this international, like first, he catapults, completely unlikely situation where he catapults into this position because he's hooked up with the reality show star with the brilliant kind of idiot savant ability to mesmerize the public with his reality show behavior, and also we have to admit that Trump is indeed an excellent communicator at his own level. At maybe not anymore because he's a little bit going off more the rails every day, but he
did that at the first time around too. He always does that weave.
People love it, and they love it
because it's simplistic.
He's breaking, and I see. I'm from the Midwest. I totally, when he first appeared, I thought this guy, people are never going to be able to take their eyes off him, and I understand why. Because he was talking to people on their level, and I don't mean in that level of like dirtbag stuff, but like he was breaking through things that people thought but wouldn't say, right? So we got to give him credit for that. And that's not Bannon, but Bannon got on that train and then got into Washington, and then from there catapulted and cleverly, and using people like Epstein, cleverly globalized himself. I mean, literally they were ready to give him, I think what's her name, Gloria von Thurn in Texas, the princess, and with the 500-room palace in Germany, was like ready to give him the palace to make his gladiator school to train right-wing Europeans. So, and now he's a player in that realm because
that he is.
He's a media, again, I think I give him credit. He's a media master, to me, he is, from my point of view, he's been, and this whole idea of smashing the administrative state, and also the, what is the famous line? Throwing, what is it? Flood the zone with shit. Yeah. That's fine. Flood the zone with shit. Okay. As a reporter, as a person who's covered politics for many years, that's extremely effective, and they're actually doing it now. They're doing it on a policy level.
I think the actual line goes something more like, if you can't dazzle them with your brilliance, baffle them with your bullshit, because they have become the absolute masters of it. And while they're screwing around all over the place, while they're creating chaos, literally right here domestically, whether it's with ICE, whether it's with the tariffs, whether it's with, I don't know, we'll talk about it in a second, the Trump gold card for visas and so on. While we're sitting here distracted, he's got Hegseth and the Department of War out there seizing a Venezuelan tanker. Now, I have some inside contacts still, and they turn around and they tell me, don't kid yourself. This nonsense about, Trump keeps talking stupidly about invading Venezuela. And so we're already in Venezuela. People don't realize that there are ships that are already in that region. They're not there for no reason. We actually, according to friends of mine, sources, we have boots on the ground in Venezuela. They're surveying exactly where they're going to strike, right? I mean, this is a full-blown freaking war against what? Venezuela? I mean, give me a break here, because on the surface, Trump is making it look like foreign policy. But to me, it feels more like grabbing a shiny object to distract from these other failures, from other issues, from maybe the Epstein files. How do you see it? Policy, piracy, or political theater?
I agree with you. Well, it's a combination of piracy and political theater. You can have both, right? I mean, it's scary, It's savagery. I also have sources down there. I'm actually doing a book down in the Caribbean, this unrelated to this, but I've got sources down there who are like, yeah, they've got, the air bombers are lined up in Puerto Rico. My sources in the lower Caribbean can see warships on the horizon. They're Facebooking pictures of them. And I've got friends in Panama who are like, yeah, my private pilot friend has been employed by the United States to go down and bring supplies to Venezuela. This was going on weeks ago. Okay. So yeah, I've got friends in Washington, the foreign policy crowd who are like, oh, he's just bluffing. No. And you're right. Okay. So it is piracy and it is policy, but it also is smokescreen, because I do think that once they start this and full on, it becomes like unavoidable for the press. The press isn't able to cover it right now, but once they get bloody and they start, this is going to be a complete distraction from the Epstein stuff. Will seem so ridiculous. So who's going to care about that at that point? And also all the other things that are going on with the tariffs and with people, the affordability issues and all the other things. It's going to be all war all the time. And what are they doing this for? Well, I don't know. They're doing it for oil. They're doing it for distraction. There's a lot of reasons why they might be doing this. I mean, they're into domination, and it's dominating the Gulf of America, right? So they're dominating the Caribbean here. You've got, if you've spent any time there in the last 10 years, the Chinese are all over down there. All of those islands are practically colonized by the Chinese, right? You don't hear anybody talking about this, but this is a very interesting operation in response to that, I think, because when, we basically almost blew up the planet over the Cuban, over Russians being in Cuba. The Chinese, no, they don't have missiles, they don't have nukes down there as far as we know, but there are a lot of Chinese in the Caribbean. I mean, it's colonized. Those islands are filled with people doing soft power. They're building bridges, they're building airports, they control the food supply, they run all the grocery stores. It has been going on for a long time, and it's fascinating that they haven't actually talked about it. So yeah, are they? I mean, I agree with you. I think I've heard the same thing. You probably have better sources than I do, but I think they really are going to do something here. Even if Maduro isn't going to step down. Maduro's the head of a gigantic, huge political party. Like, that's not going to happen. And in fact,
not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. But also, I listened to a Zoom call recently because I'm working on this project down there from Trinidad and Tobago, where, they've co-opted the president of Trinidad and Tobago, or the prime minister, whatever they call her, is very pro-Trump. And there was a person down there who's in the government who was saying, this situation is not going to end well for the U.S. There are people in Venezuela. They've been watching this go on. The public, there are a lot of people in Venezuela. The public is pissed. They've ginned up nationalism, started these militias. They're forming militias, and people are joining militias, citizens, not additionally to the 200,000 people in the army there. So really, you think you're just going to go in there, surgically strike, take some oil fields, and change regime?
It's the same thing that's happening here in America. We are beginning to see militias form. People don't talk about it. Again, I have friends in the military, as well as friends in intelligence. And they turn around and they tell me, you don't understand the chatter, the secret chatter. Well, they think it's secret, that's going on right now. In fact, it's so not secret that they're actually just doing it out in the open. Not like Hegseth with his Signal Gate 1 and 2. They're just doing it out in the open, saying, if you have an AR, if you have an AK, if you love this country and are sick and tired of this authoritarian regime that's coming, join our conversation. And they're doing it. And these are not foreign outside sources. These are American groups that said, fuck this, we've had enough. All right. You're not coming into our city. You're not going to go ahead. That's the problem that America has. 400 plus million firearms in the hands of its civilians. So, incredible. Yeah, I get it. Military, they think that they're going to go in military formation in what they call the arrowhead formation, right? Which is when you're going like this, right? Lead, and then people on the side, and everybody watching someone. You could be in whatever Kevlar outfit. A shot to the head is a shot to the head. All right. And let me be very clear about it. These militias, these homegrown militias, they're sick and tired of the bullshit that's going on, because affordability is a problem. Because they're losing their homes, they're losing their farms, they're losing their businesses. They're telling their kid, well, maybe you don't eat so much tonight, have half a portion, so that way you can have the other half for breakfast. That's not acceptable. Not in a country where the president of the United States tells you that we have $28 trillion sitting on some imaginary tariff shelf. that everybody's supposedly getting $2,000 for Christmas, every single American. That's never going to happen because the money's not there. That they turn around and they tell you that tariffs are not taxes and that consumers don't pay tariffs. It's not just another tax on our money, but that money comes from overseas countries who've been ripping us off forever like you've never seen before. None of that is true. And if you think that those grifts and that bullshit isn't enough to make you want to choke yourself, well, it's the holiday season. Welcome to the latest present that you can buy if you have $1 million or $5 million laying around, the Trump Gold Card Visa. And I'm not talking about Visa like in the MasterCard Visa. I'm talking about like a Visa to the United States. You want to skip the whole line? No worries. Just give us $1 million. I mean, this to me and to many Americans feels like peak grifting. What does it reveal about a president who could literally turn citizenship, national identity, and immigration into a cashback program?
It doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, come on. He's, the minute before he even came in on the second, for the second administration, he set up the crypto grift machine that's called Liberty Crypto or Liberty whatever. And I mean, look what's going on. It's foreign money pouring in there. It's all dark money. The boys are up running these things, juniors on all these boards and, involved with crypto as well. And, I've said so many times, I've said to Mike Tomasky at the New Republic or, I work there sometimes, somebody needs to make like a ticker.
Flow chart. Yep.
Like the ticker, the national debt ticker. They need to put a ticker up in Times Square that's just showing how much money the Trump family is gaining every single day that they're in there. Because the amount, the last time I looked, it was billions.
Almost $4 billion. But wait, there's more. There's more.
Of course, there's more.
It's not just the Trump family that's doing it. So is Witkoff. His kid is involved. It's his kid, Alex, is involved in the same thing.
Absolutely. And Lutnick and Kushner. I mean, Lutnick and Kushner Witkoff and Kushner are over there, cutting deals with with Israel and cutting deals with the Ukrainians, right? And
Qatar and Saudi.
And this is how it's done. Now, there is a part of me that feels like, maybe policy by businessmen actually isn't such a bad idea. Like, let's make everybody, kind of like work. Let's put hotels in and, we'll all because we're all going to make money. I get that that's kind of like, I see how there's kind of a capitalist, there's a sense to it. I'm not involved in it. I'll never will be, but I get it. But this is something else. These guys are just like, we're here. It's like, we're here. And we have 4 years to get as rich as we possibly can. And we're connected and we're going to make these international connections. And it's like what they were doing, what Ivanka and Jared were doing before in the first administration. But this is like, they've just juiced it. It's on steroids. It's orders of magnitude bigger amounts of corruption.
Well, I don't know. Jared's still right involved, knee deep into the fucking corruption. He could sit off to the side and build his $80 million house now in Florida, and his fund now, which is initially started by the Saudis. Now I think that they've more than doubled. He's literally himself. Yeah, he's literally knee deep right now into the acquisition of Netflix. I mean, with some $30 billion. I want people to remember that it's not me who turned around and says Jared is completely incompetent within which to run money. He's never done it before. He took his father's company, almost bankrupted it with the acquisition of 666 Fifth Avenue. Literally, they had to be bailed out by the Qataris, right, through Brookfield Properties. But the Saudi Investment Authority's finance directors unanimously said to MBS that this guy is not qualified within which to run our money. And MBS did what? He turned around and said, I don't give a shit what you say. Put $2 billion into his fund, start him out. And you know what? It's a payback. It's a
A
payback for
bribe
the
by
very
any
first
other,
phone call. What's
a
that?
bribe by any other name.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, because you have decades of covering corruption. Have you ever seen national security and personal profit so brazenly intertwined?
No, I mean, nobody has. It's unprecedented, unprecedented. I mean, and I just don't understand, like, when this is all over, how they're going to sort it out. How are we as a country, as a nation, as a people, going to sort out what's happened here?
Oh, come on, you know how.
Everyone is for sale up there, in Washington, and everybody's grafting and everybody's making money. And, the one thing that they haven't started doing yet is a war. And the next thing is there's going to be a bloody war. And by then, all the other things that they've done are going to be forgotten, because you're going to be in this state of emergency. And, I mean, I hate to say this because you worked there, but I mean, I feel like Trump has wanted to call a state of emergency and martial law for a long time. It's like his instinct is to have a state of emergency, because then you really aren't, you're unfettered. You can do whatever you want in his mind. And that's what he wants. And the people around him, I mean, again, when we talk about like what he wants at this point, I feel like it's much more. It's always good to remember that it's a lot of these people around him, like Witkoff, like Lutnick, like these crypto guys, David Sachs, the Silicon Valley dudes. There are a lot of people who are getting a lot out of this.
Oh, yeah.
And they're getting a lot out of it. So they're going to keep him, it's like Weekend with Bernie. They're going to keep him going as long as they can. And that's why they stuck him out in front of Pennsylvania. The other day, they took him down to the casino, and he just blabbed away and said ridiculous things. He called Susie Wiles Susie Trump. They're going to try to keep him going as long as they possibly can. I mean, what do you think is wrong with him?
Well, I don't think anything is actually wrong with him other than that. We mean Trump. When the holiday season rolls around, it feels like there's a party every weekend. All the sugary drinks add up, but this season, no. I'm going to reach for Sol's out-of-office gummies instead. Same fun vibe, low in calories, and zero hangover. Look, I spent years pretending I could bulldoze through life on caffeine, bad decisions, and whatever cheap liquor someone shoved in my hand. And let me tell you, the hangovers, they can be brutal. The kind of pain that makes you reevaluate every life choice that you've ever made. And in my case, well, there's a lot to reevaluate. So when I finally got my act together, I started looking for ways to unwind that didn't feel like self-sabotage. And that's where Sol comes in. Sol is a wellness brand that believes feeling good should be fun and easy. And for once, fun and easy doesn't mean waking up feeling like you negotiated with a mob boss and lost. So look, I've been taking their out-of-office gummies, and here's the truth. They hit that perfect sweet spot. Mild, relaxing buzz, a little lift in mood, enough creativity to make even my holiday to-do list seem manageable. And with 5 different strengths, you can dose it like a grown-up, which, based on my life experience, is a skill that I highly recommend. And if you want to class it up a bit, try their out-of-office beverage. It's an alcohol-free way to unwind, and it actually tastes good, and it doesn't punish you in the morning. And trust me, if I can avoid a hangover, trust me, anyone can. But the real game changer, Sol, also has a variety of products specifically designed to help you get a better night's rest, including their top-selling Sleepy Gummies. Deep, restorative sleep. The kind I wish I'd had years ago. And because it matters, especially now, everything they make is organically farmed, USA grown hemp, vegan, gluten-free, low in sugar, and federally legal. I mean, a rare combination of things I can actually feel good putting in my body. Now, here's where you pay attention. Take advantage of Sol's Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal now. And for a limited time, get 40% off your entire order. So go to GetSol, GetSoul.com, and use the code Cohen, COHEN. That's GetSol.com, promo code Cohen for 40% off. Don't miss the best deal of the year. Go now. Last year, I bought my parents another gadget that they never opened. But this year, I wanted to give them something that actually matters, something that keeps giving year after year. I realized the best gift I could give my family was time, more time together. And that starts with health. And that's why I'm genuinely excited about Superpower. Superpower is a new kind of health platform that helps you finally get answers about what's really going on inside your body and what to do about it. One simple lab test, checks over 100 biomarkers, hormones, metabolisms, vitamins, minerals, thyroid, heart health, you name it. Then they give you a full report and a personalized action plan. Nutrition, supplements, lifestyle guidance, all of it laid out clearly. There's no guessing, no confusion. I mean, I've already signed up and I love seeing what's actually happening inside me instead of just hoping that I'm doing it right. It's like a health GPS for your life. And the best part, every gift membership comes with a free $49 Superpower gift box, ready to wrap and give. For $199, you're giving something thoughtful, meaningful, and potentially life-changing. So give your loved ones something that actually lasts, better health, and more time with you. So go to superpower.com/gift to get a free $49 premium gift box with your gifted membership. That's Superpower, superpower.com/gift. And after you sign up, tell them that you heard about it on this podcast. Help support the show and start giving the gift that really matters this year. No, I don't think he has dementia. I think what he has is what you just said. He has an absolute desire to rule, not to run the country, not to legislate for the country, but to rule it for as long as he can. You know, he's dreading 3 years from now, because we do know actually what's going to happen to the Lutnicks, to the Witkoffs, to the Trumps, to the Saxes, to the, to these grifters that are out there. And everybody, and if you are in that inner circle, you are making buck right now. And everybody else, their feeling is, fuck them, let them eat cake. There will be something similar to like the Nuremberg trials that will ultimately be held in this country. It is going to be the worst distraction this country has ever seen, right? But people will turn around and it is going to be a flying shit show like never seen before. You're going to have people standing up like the Jamie Raskins of the world, like the Eric Swalwells of the world, like the Jasmine Crockett's of the world. And they will ultimately take power in their various different committees. And they will hold all of these folks accountable for all of the grifting, destructive, disgusting things that they're doing to America right now, because you cannot have 100,000 people with 90% of the money and everybody else is sort of like, well, you know what? Not only are we just going to continue grifting and making billions of dollars and buying our 15th house and our 11th airplane and our 6th yacht that's bigger than a cruise ship. We're going to cut your SNAP benefits. We're going to tell your kid that, you know what, eating isn't for everyone. Or, you know what, maybe for Christmas you don't need to get, $5. Why don't you just settle with $2? Or how about even none? Maybe make something out of a stick of wood that you find in the backyard. That sort of brazen ass holiness is what's going to be their worst downfall. But I actually, I want to switch gears for another second here, because I want to talk to you about the radical far right wing, because they're out of fucking control. The Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Nick Fuentes of the world. These guys are now heavy online. How organized is their movements, and how much of it is actually influencing mainstream politics without most Americans even realizing it?
Well, I think they've been in power and influencing for a long time. I mean, if you look at the Project 2025 and what's going on at the Heritage Foundation, look, they started with you get to the Supreme Court and the Heritage Foundation, captured by the Opus Dei realm of the Catholic Church. That is known. The Supreme Court is captured by Roberts and all these people are very Opus Dei connected. John Roberts of Heritage Foundation is a member of that outfit. And then you get the Nick Fuentes and these Nazi adjacent anti-Semitic folks who are openly anti-Semitic in the administration, burrowed in. You have people like Darren Beatty, who is a eugenicist. Has been, he was booted out when you were there in those years, and he's back in there. He's got a position of power, eugenicist, an actual outright total racist. And these people are they're insidiously embedded all over in the administration. And look, you have the only way that you get something like what's going on with, let's say, the military removing the names of all the black soldiers in, these, the plaques to the black or female contributions to the American project. The only way you get that is if you've got these people burrowed in who are doing this as part of a real serious project to whiten and purify America. That is the project. The Homeland Security stuff, the ICE roundups. This is about purifying the United States. And you've got J.D. Vance in on it. You've got these techno-futurist guys who are all about eugenics and pronatalism for white people. You've got Trump saying, we're going to let in refugees from South Africa because white people are being burdened with discrimination in South Africa. Meanwhile, all of these other countries are being told they can't come in because they're shithole countries because they're brown. People have brown skin or they're not speaking English. Well, the Boers of the Afrikaners don't speak English either, but that doesn't matter because they're white. But yeah, the white purification project, the white nationalist, Christian nationalist operation, well underway. Now, What is interesting about it is the way that they're also working with people like Barry Weiss and this whole operation of making sure that there's no anti-Semitic commentary at universities, aka anybody protesting against the Gaza operation, which you and I may disagree on this, but it's not. It's a savage thing that's happening, and they should be influencing the Israelis to stop doing it.
By the way, I'm the first one to say the same thing. And I also believe that they require a two-state solution. I've said that long, long ago. I think Bibi Netanyahu is a disgrace, and horrible. I think that he's horrible. And I think that right now, you know what? I will give Kushner credit where credit is actually due. The Abraham Accords showing everybody that money can be made by all, that regardless of religion, regardless of your pasts, and that has been working. But I'm with you on that. I think the only way that you ultimately have peace in the Middle East is you actually have to have a two-state solution, and there has to be interceding oversight. Like I believe that the Muslim countries that surround the area need to be involved, because you cannot allow Hamas or Hezbollah to now reform and retake over, because they're hurting the Palestinian people as much as the Israelis. That's right. But the problem with the Abraham Accords was that they did co-opt those Gulf powers into a situation where they will not step up and say anything about what's going on with the Gaza situation, because they're allied. They've allied themselves with the Netanyahu government, and that's a problem. But anyway, that we can take that. I mean, that's another. Right. Overall, the whitening of America, the project of the whitening of America, is interestingly intertwined with this extreme reaction to speech on campuses, and extreme, like the takeover of CBS by Barry Weiss, where they're starting to, they're conservatizing everything. They're making sure that the conservative speech, the Dershowitz and what's her name, the gun loving Lash, Kristi Noem, Nancy Mace,
people like that. Well, no. Dana Lash. You know,
Oh.
where Barry Weiss said, you know, we need more Dershowitzes and Dana Lashes on national television. First of all, I don't know how many people are actually watching CBS anymore. It's alarming to us journalists to see like what they're going to do with it, but actually, who even watches TV? I don't. I mean, I watch.
Me neither. Hey, can I finish on this final question to you, because this is a great segue for it? Because we're also seeing now a revolt of women. And I'm enjoying watching it, by the way, but specifically the revolt of women, especially in the GOP. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like Nancy Mace, or even now Christine Noem, right? I mean, you know, you're starting to see,
fired, right? That's what they're saying.
Correct. I want to know from you, what's driving this wave? Is it ideology? Is it hunger for continued power? Is it opportunism? Or maybe all three?
Well, I mean, as you know, I'm a student of the right-wing female. I'm actually writing another book about them, and I'm very deeply steeped in this stuff. So I think about this all the time, and it's fascinating because I don't know if you saw that Times story the other day with that's what you're referring to, where the women in the House are complaining about Mike Johnson, and they're calling him an idiot and incompetent, ineffective, and they're getting ready to quit Congress. So they're, Marjorie Taylor Greene just did. And for us who've been watching this play out, I mean, this is an administration that brought the Tate brothers back to the United States, right? That's predatory, rapey White House is. And these guys, Mike Johnson and Mr. Porn app, Mr. Religion is down there, but they're misogynistic, they're sexist behavior. So to us, it's like, wait, you're just waking up to see that that's what you've been supporting in this movement. However, we welcome it, because one of the foundational underpinnings of this regime or this movement is sexism, is returning, the right of women to be free of sexual harassment from the workplace, overturning that, overturning the right to bodily autonomy. Out goes abortion, legal abortion, women bleeding out in parking lots because they're having miscarriages down in the southern states. I mean, the assault on women's dignity and on women's self agency and women's autonomy that's gone on in this country, the absolutely crazy backlash that we're living through is led by this administration. And so these women who, you look at them from my point of view, you're looking at these women and you think, wow, they're the most empowered women in America. That word empowered, right? You're empowered by this administration. You've got Bondi, you've got Noam, you've got Susie Wiles, you've got these women at the top levels. They're empowered, but they're basically empowered by a regime that's aimed at disempowering American women on every level. So fascinating to see. I mean, we're sitting on the edge of our seats wondering how it's going to play out.
Yeah, I don't see it coming out too well.
I think the first woman president will come from the right, though. That's my prediction.
I would say the opposite, but Nina Burleigh, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Definitely have to have you come back, and we'll do a Substack together too. We'll have a lot of fun.
I'd love that. So good to see you again, Michael. Have a great day. Great week.
Thank you as well.
Take care.